So welcome to Maba. My name is Sherrie McMillan and my Dharma name is Xianxing. And I'm going to talk about the Lotus Sutra today. This year, Master Jibru, who is the abbot here at Maba, asked us to talk about Bodhisattvas this year. And I picked Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. He's not always associated with the Lotus Sutra, but he is in there. And he's the focus of the sutra that follows the Lotus Sutra. So I won't talk about him much today, but I will talk about him a lot next time. Now, in this first slide, you can see a wheel and some animals looking at it. The wheel represents the wheel of Dharma. We say that when the Buddha teaches, he's turning the wheel of Dharma in this world. And when we listen to the teaching and practice, and if we go on to teach ourselves, we are also turning the wheel of Dharma in this world. Notice it has 8 spokes. They represent the eightfold noble path of the teachings. And it's difficult to see, but there should be 3 swirls in the middle. And they represent the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, who keep the wheel rolling. The 2 animals that are looking at it. It's difficult to see in the picture. I could not fit them all on the slide. My daughter thought they were llamas, but they represent deer. And they symbolize 2 things. One is that all beings are capable of becoming Buddhas, and all beings can listen to the teaching when they hear them. And Buddha, in fact, often taught in a place called the deer park. Now, there were many deer who may have had the chance to hear the Dharma. Also represents one of the most famous tales of his previous lives, which are called Jataka tales, in which the Buddha was a king of the deer, and he offered his own life in return to save the life of another deer. And he was able to save all the deer in the forest and all the animals in the forest from hunting by offering himself up. So this symbol of the wheel and the deer, you can see on many monastery gates in Asia, and it's also above the doorways into many Dharma halls. So to start off, we're going to talk about the Lotus Sutra, which is one sutra, but it's often found in 3 sutras as a group called the threefold Lotus Sutra. And they consist of the Innumerable Meanings Sutra, which is very short, it's just a few pages, the Lotus Sutra itself, and then the Samantabhadra Meditation Sutra. I'll get started on them today. It's going to take a couple of talks for me to cover it all. And just to remind you, Bodhisattva is an awakened being who works for the good of others, helping them understand and attain awakening themselves, saving them from suffering. And it's also one who has the aspiration to do this, is working towards enlightenment so that one can help others. And the Innumerable Meanings Sutra, the first one, talks about virtues, preaching and how to preach, and it talks about 10 merits practice for the benefit of all and to cultivate positive karma for all. It talks specifically about 10 merits that you receive if you listen to this sutra, study this sutra, and practice this sutra. That applies also to the Lotus Sutra. I should also mention that if you go to find a copy of the Lotus Sutra to read yourself, some of the translations in English only have the Lotus Sutra, not all 3 sutras. So if you want to read all 3 of them, you would have to look for the threefold Lotus Sutra or the 3-part Lotus Sutra. So the Innumerable Meaning Sutra has the Buddha teaching to a gathering of countless beings, hundreds of thousands of beings, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Arhats, and those who will return just once more to life before they enter Nirvana, and those who will return twice more, 3 times more. They're all listening to him talk. Yeah. This is not the right one. Well, so there's supposed to be 2 slides here. The first one was the 10 merits of practicing the Innumerable Meaning Sutra. So they include things like developing generosity, developing the aspiration to be a bodhisattva, actually developing awakening, developing compassion, and many other good things. Now, the reason I was supposed to have 2 was that I wanted to talk about merits specifically. So while the Innumerable Meaning Sutra has most of its pages are about these merits. Well, it's very short. It's explaining what happens if you read the sutra and think about it. Thus, merits are a result of what you do. They're not things that you magically gain just from looking at the sutra. You have to actually do something to gain the merits. So the merits are a result of your actions. Thinking about the sutra, listening to the sutra, reading the sutra. And the reason I had this other slide is that there are often, when you're learning about Buddhism, and when I was first learning about it, there are many things that have the same name, and it's easy to confuse them. So one of the first things you'll think about when you hear about 10 merits in the Innumerable Meaning Sutra is this maybe more famous 10 merits. And these are actually 10 actions that give good merit. So it emphasizes that idea that a merit is something that results from your actions. People often think of a merit as something we can accumulate or get, right? But it's something that is a consequence of your own actions. It's cause and effect. So if you do something that's of benefit to others, you will gain merit. If you do something that's a benefit to yourself and others, you will gain merit. Generous giving, ethical conduct, mental development, respect for the wise, doing service to others, and so on. And you'll have heard about many of these already in other talks here. But I wanted to emphasize that merits come from what you do. So that's it for that sutra, because it's very short. It's only a few pages. The next sutra in the threefold collection is the Lotus Sutra, the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. So Saddharma means true Dharma. This is a true teaching of the Buddha. And he tells the truth about the teaching. And Pundarika means white lotus. So sometimes you'll hear this sutra called the White Lotus Sutra. And lotuses in Buddhism represent awakening. Different colors of lotus can represent different things. A blue lotus, for instance, represents wisdom. Red lotus can represent compassion and loving kindness. The white lotus represents purity and clarity of the Buddha. So this is a sutra about the Buddha and Buddhahood itself. And true teaching of the Buddha about the Buddha and Buddhahood. Now there are only 28 chapters. So this is one of the larger sutras. Not the biggest one, but it's a pretty big one. And these 28 chapters are about teaching bodhisattvas and those who aspire to be bodhisattvas. And the Buddha is not the only one who teaches. Sometimes other Buddhas or Bodhisattvas come forward and teach also. In this sutra, there is teaching about teaching itself, and that'll make more sense in a moment. It's also teaching about practitioners. And there's a lot of discussion of specific bodhisattvas and their qualities, and also discussion of who's going to become a Buddha and when it will happen. So this is what I just said. Just going to get rid of that one. Now, when the Buddha starts his talk in the Lotus Sutra, he's again speaking to this gigantic number of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and other followers of his who are very advanced. And he starts off talking a bit more about virtues and qualities of Buddhas. And then he begins to talk about teaching. And he says he teaches by skillful means. This means there are many different teachings. And sometimes people argue about the teachings, thinking one is better than another, or they have the right teaching and the other people are doing the wrong teaching. But the Buddha said, all my teaching is skillful means. That means that he teaches appropriately to what the person he's teaching needs. So if you come to him and say, I'm having trouble with my family, he won't start talking about emptiness to you. He'll probably talk about something to do with getting along with other people and having compassion for your family. Someone comes to him to ask about emptiness, he will talk about that if they're ready for it. So he always uses the right tool for what a person needs. Just as you would not use a flathead screwdriver to turn a Phillips screw, or vice versa, he always used the right teaching for the right person and the right conditions, the right situation. This is one of the marks of a good teacher in Buddhism. You have to be able to teach appropriately for the audience. This is often represented by the Buddha being a doctor. We are sick with our suffering and samsara, and his teaching is the medicine that will fix us if we take it the way we're supposed to. And he knows the specific medicine you need. Do you need to meditate? Do you work on ethics and so on? And he always uses the right tool. And while he's talking about skillful means, he goes on to say that these different paths that you are on, I'll talk more about that in a bit, but he says we're all really the same. And when he starts talking about this, 50,000 people, I think, get up and leave. Everybody else stays. A lot more people stay. But he says they're just not ready to listen. That's okay. They're very proud of their own path, and they don't want to hear about other paths. They're not ready. Everyone else stays, and they get to hear the rest of the teaching. So some of the people who were listening were not bodhisattvas yet. They had not taken bodhisattva vows. Some of them are what we call sramaneras, who had left home and they followed the Buddha, but they had not taken the aspiration to become a bodhisattva. They didn't think they were good enough. But when they heard the Buddha talking in this way about he teaches appropriately to each person and what they need at the time, and you don't have to stop there, you can keep coming back for more teachings. This opened the eyes of some of the people listening who had not thought they were good enough to be a bodhisattva or a Buddha before. They thought it was something greater than what they were. They thought their way was to attain nirvana, and that would be enough. Becoming a Buddha was unthinkable because it seemed so special. But one of them, Sariputra here, He looks a little green in the slide, but he's supposed to be golden. The sutras talk about him having a golden complexion and being very attractive. So he says, now my eyes are opened. Now I understand. Now I know I am a son of the Buddha. He's an heir to the Buddha's teachings, all of them. He says, now I know I can become a Buddha. I can become a Bodhisattva. He says, my net of doubts has been lifted. So he doubted before, even Sariputra, one of the greatest members of the Sangha, doubted that he'd become a Buddha. Didn't think he could do that. And when he heard more of the Buddha's teachings, he understood he could. And this is just a beautiful representation of what's possible. Because so many of us, I mean, I hear this over and over again, people who think, well, I'd like to take Bodhisattva vows, but I can't because I don't think I could do that. I don't think I'm good enough to do that. Well, everyone can do it. Everyone. And even someone like Sariputra might have thought he couldn't do it and had to realize that he could. So it's normal to think you're not good enough, but we all have that potential and that ability to become a Buddha. So he said, I am a son of the Buddha or an heir of the Buddha. This is one of the most important things in the Lotus Sutra. Perhaps the most important, is it says everyone can be a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. We all have the same nature. All sentient beings are of the same nature as the Buddha himself, and all are capable of becoming fully awakened. We don't have to put ourselves down and think we're not that good, or think, look at how I'm born in this life. It's not that great. I'm not Buddha material or Bodhisattva material, because it's something that's possible for everyone. Even the sparrows flying around outside have Buddha nature. After this discussion, they began to talk more about it and how they had understood this. And they told some parables about the way the Buddha teaches and about the paths and how people come to them. And one of them is the parable of the burning house. This is actually told twice in the Lotus Sutra, twice in the same chapter. It's repeated by two different people. In this parable, there's a man who has 3 children. And he has this huge, huge house. Part of it's old and it's not in great shape. And the kids decide to go play there. And while they're playing there, house catches on fire. And of course, the father has to get his children out of there. But as you know, if you've ever been in a dangerous situation, you don't want the person you're trying to help to panic. You don't scream at them, there's a fire, get out of there now, because they might panic and get hurt. So we tried to think of a way that he could get them out safely. So he's telling them, children, why don't you come out and see me now? And they said, no, we're busy, we're playing. Which many parents recognize. They were busy. They didn't realize the house had caught on fire and that there was a danger to them. So they kept on playing. They kept thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to get them out of there? I can't just run in there and grab them because the rafters are starting to weaken and fall down. And so they came up with an idea of how to get them out. Each child stayed in danger because they saw attractive things, their toys were in there, they were playing, they were having fun, they thought, even though they were actually in danger. So he realized he had to have something attractive to get them out of there. So he told them he had some carts outside for them, and the carts were filled with their favorite toys or candy, favorite foods. And I always show a picture because lots of people don't believe the kind of carts that he said. And these were real carts that children would play with. First child, he tells, I have a goat cart out here because she wanted a goat cart like all the other kids had. And it was filled with her favorite things, her favorite toys, her favorite candy. You see, children really did have goat carts. They would play with them just like we play with big wheels or whatever kids are using this year. And the other kid doesn't want a go-kart. He wants to be different from everybody else. And so the father says, son, I have a deer cart out here for you. It's filled with all the things you like. And there were children who had deer carts too. I don't have a picture of that today, but they typically were richer children. And then the third kid, he's not interested in either of those carts. So the father says, son, I have a cart pulled by an ox for you. And this attracted that kid because maybe he wanted to be more like a grown-up and have, a big cart with a bull pulling it. And so they all finally came out to see their carts and their toys and things. But when they got out there was just one cart. One big cart that was made of gold and silver and coral and rubies and other jewels. And it was pulled by two very, very large oxen or bullocks that were pure white, had great big horns, and there were garlands of flowers on them. And the kid said, where's the goat cart? And the kid said, where's the deer cart? And the kid said, where's my ox cart? And he said, this is the best thing I have. And it's for you. This is the one that I'm giving you. And he knew they wouldn't have come out for that one because it didn't sound like they wanted it first. But once they saw it, they wanted it because they saw it was a great cart. It was bigger and fancier than the ones they wanted. So he had to offer them what they thought they wanted to get them out, what they needed in that instant to get them out. And then he actually presented them with the real deal, the one that he really had. The burning house represents samsara, our cycle of birth and suffering and death. And we don't want to leave it because it can seem like we're having fun, right? The car's fun until it breaks down, and the romance is fun until one of you breaks up with the other one, and the chocolate cake is fun until it's gone. And then you have to go exercise somewhere maybe, or your cholesterol goes up or something and your doctor's mad at you. So things seem fun, but they have repercussions. So the father, just like the Buddha wanted to bring us out of samsara, the father had to bring them out of the burning house by offering them what they wanted then. Because if he had told them, I have a gigantic gold cart out here, they probably would have said, yeah, Dad, right. Because they've never seen the golden cart before. So he gave them something that they could use, that they thought they could use, that they would like, and that they understood at that time. And then presented them with the real cart. So these carts, they represent the three vehicles. And having just the one cart when they come out represents that there is really just one Dharma. And this is the other really profound teaching in the Lotus Sutra. Now the vehicles are the Sravaka vehicle, the Pratyeka vehicle and the Bodhisattva or the Buddha vehicle. The Sravaka vehicle is the listening vehicle. And people like Venerable Sariputra were following that one. This is a path of listening to the teachings of the Buddha and trying to attain Nibbana yourself. Many people find that attractive. When you hear, I'm going to get out of suffering, that sounds great. I mean, that's how I myself got started with Buddhism. I had anxiety that I was suffering from, and I wanted to get over that. And that was really the thing I was attracted to, ending some of my suffering. But then when I came to it, I found there was a lot more to it, and I kept going. Pratyeka Buddhas are Buddhists who become Buddhists all by themselves, and they never teach anybody else. They're called solitary Buddhists. Sometimes they're called the solitary rhinoceros Buddha because they stay alone. They learn about dependent origination, which you can look up or hear about in another talk. And from that, they can become awakened themselves, but they don't go on to teach anybody else. They don't develop real compassion for others and teach. Their path is becoming a Buddha. And you do that by becoming a Bodhisattva first, wanting to help others escape suffering, help others awaken. And that was the path that Venerable Sariputra thought he couldn't do. He didn't even ever think of doing it. It seemed too special and too unique. So just like one golden cart, these are really all one Dharma. And the Buddha knew that those people who left at the beginning of his talk wouldn't be able to understand this because they were too focused on their own path and not able to see that all the paths were really connected and united. That the teachings are just offered according to what people need at that time and what they can hear at that time. Just like if you want to teach your child math, you don't start off with calculus, you start off with addition and subtraction. If you're going to learn physics, you don't start off with quantum mechanics, you start off with rolling balls down ramps, okay, and seeing what happens. So everyone has to be taught according to where they are now. And that's why there are so many different teachings. It's because we all have different needs. We all have different things that we need right now. And we all have different situations and different conditions in our mind. So there are all these teachings to help us right now. But there are always more teachings. And just because these teachings all seem so different, it doesn't mean they're all separate. They're all really just one Dharma being taught to lots and lots of different people according to what they need at the moment. So everybody liked the story of the burning carts. And then they told the story of the prodigal son. This was to explain why the Buddha didn't go up to people immediately and start telling them about how to be a Buddha. Instead, told them how to escape suffering. Because if somebody walked up to you and said, "Hey, would you like to be a Buddha?" What would you do? You'd probably go away. Who are you? Why are you talking to me? But he teaches what people are open to receiving at the moment. Because he wants to help you whether or not you really want to be a Buddha right now. He just doesn't want to see people suffer. So the prodigal son story, it's about a young man who ran away, was lost at a young age. Many years later, his father had become wealthy and had people working for him. And one day he was walking through town and he saw this homeless man walking past. And, everyone was avoiding him because he was dirty and alone and homeless, and he he did not walk with confidence. He had low self-esteem. And this man looked at him and he recognized, oh my goodness, that's my son. Where's he been? What happened to him? Why is he like this? What happened to him? And he could see his son didn't recognize him. He walked right past him. And so he called over one of his employees and said, go, you see that homeless man? Go tell him to come to my house and I'll help him. I'll give him whatever he needs and wants. And so the employee did that and the man went home to wait, and the homeless man didn't come because he thought this gotta be a scam. What is this? This can't be true. So he ran away again. And so the father figured out, okay, he's not approachable right now. He doesn't recognize me, doesn't know me, and he doesn't think anything good can happen to him because life has been so hard on him. How do I get to know him? How do I bring him back home? So we thought about it and we finally figured, okay, we'll have to do this gradually. And so we had one of his employees offer the man a simple job, like sweeping out the yard. And we'll give you some pennies. That'd be okay. And the homeless guy says, okay, because that's the kind of thing he had been doing. And so he cleaned up after the animals and swept around the buildings, and he did things like this. And the father could watch him and see that he was getting fed, and they'd give him clothing from time to time. And the son's mental state began to improve as he was able to do things, get paid, and began to feel safe again. And he developed some self-confidence, and they began giving him more and more to do. And eventually the son was given, he worked his way up and he was given control of the property of the father. And then the father, okay, maybe now I can tell him he's doing better and I can talk to him now. So he called him and said, I'm your father. You've been gone a long time. I don't know what happened to you, but welcome home. And so they hugged and they cried and everything. And someone's like, why didn't you tell me this right away? And it's like, well, I tried, but you ran away. You didn't want to hear it then. So this is told to represent how we can't accept something when it seems too good to be true. Like Sariputra could not accept that he could be the Buddha. That seemed too fabulous to believe. No. So we often reject something because we think we're not good enough for it, or it's too good for us. And Buddha in this story lets us know we are good enough. We can always enter the path and become better. We never have to just stay where we are. Everyone is capable of blossoming like a lotus where they are. This is why the lotus is a symbol of awakening, because it looks like a little rock and it's stuck in the mud and it grows up to the light and it becomes this beautiful flower. So that's just like us. We can come out of some very dark circumstances and we can still rise above that and be what we truly are able to be, and not be trapped in where we came from. So I will finish there, I think. And I'll keep talking about the Lotus Sutra next time, and we will get to Samantabhadra in the next talk. Okay? So I will dedicate the merit. And this just means that our actions today have good consequences for us. They have benefits for us. So through this merit, may all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings know happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings know the great joy that is free from suffering. And may all beings dwell in the equanimity that is free from attachment, aversion, and ignorance. Okay, thank you.